Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and this is the coast clear, because this is the piracy show. Yeah, yesterday's episode. Whoo! Wow. Honestly, like, the title of that episode was dead on, because you might have noticed that episode came out late. And a lot of that was because I had uploaded it and I was like hanging my finger over the publish button and just going like, oh shit. Do I really want to kick this can on down the street? I mean, do I really want to keep this going? It's just like, but it's just, you hear those answers on dev blogs and it was just, and luckily, you know, I would say thank you to Francisco Martin for linking that DCS footage, because I looked at it and I was like, yeah, you know, it's right in the middle, but you know, it shows you the difference. It really does, as clear as day. And I mean, especially like when you think about ships like this, like the Caterpillar, you know, people go, oh, like, you know, it's such a complicated problem. It's got to go back to art and we got to fix it. I mean, realistically, you got to think that this far in the future, there would be augmented reality. I mean, augmented reality is something that exists already on like the fighters like the F-35. Like if you're flying an F-35 and a target's down below you, you can look down basically at your control panels with your helmet, and it will still show you the relative position to that target. It'll still show you what you need to see. So it allows you to kind of see through the objects that are right in front of you. And I mean, even if you look at, like going back a ways, there was an anime that came out in the 90s called Macross Plus. Now, Macross Plus, for those of you who don't know, because there may be some of you out there, Macross is something that for many American viewers, and I realize that a lot of the people who watch my channel are based in the US, might be more familiar with it as Robotech, which was kind of like the Americanized version, which took a few different series and kind of put them all together as one. Certainly I was a huge fan of that, but I had always known that Macross was kind of like the Japanese version, and it differed in storyline, obviously, between that and the American version. But there were still some primary things that were the same. And so, you know, when I heard about this, I went and I watched it, but there was something really unique in this show. And I kind of wanted to bring this forward and kind of show you as an example of something futuristic, but something that's totally playable. Now, this fighter here that you see is called the YF-19. And yes, of course, it does transform into a giant 50-foot robot with a machine gun, because why not? But there was one really amazing innovation in this fighter that was really like forward thinking, something that really was like ripped out of the pages of the future almost and put into like a cartoon. So the internal panels of the cockpit were actually displays. So you had your regular, you know, flight display, your systems display up front, and you had, you know, your chair, your stick, all that. But all the internal walls within the cockpit were actually like display screens. So you had perfect situational awareness. What's above you, you see through the windscreen. What's below you, the panels display it through cameras on the fuselage, presumably. So you had total awareness of what was going on all around you, right? All you had to do was the joystick, and there it was. In the end, it kind of becomes like a little bit of a tug of war, though, when we're talking about it, because there are so many different cockpits and so many different ships in Star Citizen that if we were to realistically say, okay, well, this needs to be fixed, that needs to be fixed on this ship, this needs to be fixed, I mean, you're sending so many ships back to art that it really just doesn't go anywhere. You know, it's just like this constant cycle. We bring it out, and then all of a sudden, oh shit, we didn't think of this, so we got to put it back out there. But what if you created a system that just umbrella fixed all the ships? What if you used your plans to do augmented reality, and you just said, okay, so you buy this piece of your avionics package or whatever, you just plug it into your ship's computer or, you know, whatever maintenance slot on your fighter, whatever. And what it is it's just a little overlay. You hit a hotkey, and what it does is it overlays the image of your ship with like a false color, like infrared image of the ground that's kind of like shaded in. So it's not, you know, something that's, you know, right in your face and something that's just like, whoa, but, you know, something that's just kind of brought in as kind of like a faded overlay, but enough detail is revealed that it allows you to see the ground beneath you so that you can fly through these canyons, you know. You can fly around and you can see the craters in the ground, or you can see objects on the ground still with enough detail to make flying work at low level. A lot of these ships, you know, they were kind of designed around this idea of an artistic object, something that calls back to a film or a cartoon or whatever, you know. But they never kind of factored in, oh shit, we're going to be flying these things close to the ground. You got to remember that when Star Citizen first came out, we were going to fly to a planet, and it was going to be almost like, let's say you're playing Elite Dangerous. You fly to a space station, you have your auto docking system, you click it, you request a landing, you go in and you fly down and land. And it was going to be the same thing with planets. We were going to fly down to planets, and we were just going to land at landing sites, and there'd be areas to explore and visit around there. But then the game got literally so much bigger. It, you know, planets actually became planets, moons became real moons, and so you had to all of a sudden factor in all these things that weren't like in the picture when a lot of these original ships were first designed. Now, if CIG were to turn around and say, yeah, you know what, we're going to make a system like that, of all the, you know, the systems that we're talking about implementing, you know, recently we did this questionnaire, and, you know, we were saying, oh, what do you want, armed NPCs, do you want better group tools, blah, 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 you know, all that stuff. If they had said, you know what, one of the things that we need to insert here is better landing and visibility systems. Something that allows us to keep the integrity of our artistic vision with the ships, which is fine, but we're gonna add an augmented reality overlay that allows you to pick a landing area or to fly down a canyon and not have to worry about hitting a boulder because you can't see it, right? All they have to do is kind of launch off an idea like that and just say, you know, this is one of the things that we're going to do. This is one of the things that is now moved up in priority because we realize that with the changes we've made to the game, this is now a realistic, practical concern that affects the game right now as you're playing it. Because we're not going to landing areas we're going to the whole surface of a planet. Like this right here, this footage that you're seeing of me. This is, if you remember back, I think it was like a month and a half ago, I did a video where I was talking about, you know, cataloging various landing sites, or keeping track of certain landing sites. And here I am returning to Daymar to see if one of the landing sites that I had cataloged was still there. And this is, like, for those of you who may remember, this is the Freelancer crash site that I had shown off in 3.0. And so I was just trying to see if that site was still there in this version. You'll notice the footage stutters here and there, but I mean, that's just the game. Now, you'll often see me doing this in videos, I mean, when I'm flying just about any ship, and you'll see me kind of spinning the camera around my ship in the third person, especially when I'm flying it low over a planet. I'm not doing this to get cinematic angles and to show off the ship. Sure, the ship is gorgeous, but the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm actually searching the ground right now for a Freelancer wreck, because this is what I'm doing. I'm revisiting that Freelancer wreck to make sure it's, you know, it's still there, to see how many sites might still be valid that I recorded back in 3.0. Because even though, you know, one of the listed functions for this ship is search and rescue, I sure as hell can't do no searching from the cockpit. If I had augmented reality, then I could maybe see what was on the ground, or at least some detail of what was on the ground, so this would still work. Now in the future I might get sensors, and I might have all these things that tell me, oh, there's an iron signature over here, there's an aluminum or a power signature over there, go in this direction, go in that direction. Fine, cool, but what's going to tell me what's below me when I have to land this ship on the ground? How do I know if I'm going to spear myself in the rock? 1,000 years in the future? Is that our spaceship landing systems? Hey, could somebody go look out a window and tell me if I'm going to hang up on a rock or if I'm landing on a flat area? Is that how that works? Or do we just go out into the mystical third-person view and land that way? Is that how we play in the first-person universe? You know, I mean, I realize that some people, like, they look at this, they say, why are you making such a big deal out of this? Why do you keep talking about this? And I keep talking about it because it's one of these persistent things that never gets fixed. And a lot of people, I think, look at these ships and they just see these static art objects and they go, oh my God, that's going to be so cool. It looks so cool. It looks so great. But you have to think about these ships as like the ships that you're actually going to be flying in the game. And I know that that's kind of a foreign concept to some people because we've been waiting for the game for so long. And so it almost feels like, I don't know, it's just like a spaceship. It just has to look cool. But it has to do so much more than that. Like, it has to account for, like, being able to fly it, being able to use it for the role that it was designed. If you're flying a reclaimer and the guy who's operating the claw, just the claw on the reclaimer, has a clean, perfect viewpoint out of the front of the ship where he can see what he's doing, but then you put this giant panel in front of the pilot and block like 50% of his viewable area just to show him screens that he only needs to glance at maybe once every 30 to 60 seconds while he's flying his ship. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Wouldn't a pilot need to have a clear view of where they're going? Because, you know, we keep showing all this cool footage of the reclaimer landed on planets and going to this spot and that spot. Wouldn't it be cool if the reclaimer could actually see where it's going to? You know? It's always a great thing to let art drive certain ideas, you know, because artists can come up with original and cool ways to make things look and to make things look compelling and interesting to the eyes, you know. It's certainly, I mean, there's a lot of that in a lot of the ships in Star Citizen, and I don't think that you can look at any one ship at Star Citizen and even say, even if it isn't your cup of tea, even if you don't like the way it looks, or, you know, you don't like the lines or whatever, you can't look at it and not see the individual skill of the artists. Like, the artists are very skilled that are working on Star Citizen. The guys that are like creating these objects are very skilled and very, very good at creating a lot of detail. But I think where they trip up is they don't really understand the practical concerns of actually operating these ships. I think that that's kind of like a foreign concept. Like, we spend so much time looking at these cockpits and looking at all the cool switches and the dials and the immersive buttons, but the game, Star Citizen, the game, is what's happening outside of the cockpit. That's the important thing. All of this is cool secondary stuff, but it's being treated like this is it. This is the important thing. This is what you need to see. If you don't see your hands on the control wheels, how do you know that you're in a spaceship? Well, I think the moon outside of the window and the gas giant up in the sky and the stars and all that, I think that kind of tells me that I'm in space. I think that's kind of immersive too. You know? All this information that you get on these MFDs, this is all secondary information. Your primary information, the information that you need, is the information that realistically you can only get, you know, flying in the third person. And like, it's this weird kind of duality. Now, if we go and we say, okay, you know what, augmented reality, these kinds of, you know, kind of see-through options that allow pilots to better navigate in, you know, crowded environments like an asteroid field or around the surface of planets, things like that. If we prioritize these systems, we can negate all these problems for all these ships. We can use whatever design language we want. We can fill it with MFDs. We can make the whole screen MFDs, and it's cool as long as we implement these things. Fine, but like, that needs to be like one of the things that's high on the priority list, something that needs to not be one of those things, well, we'll prototype it and we'll touch base with you guys a year from now or something like that. Like, this is something that, unfortunately, like, you know, the cockpit view discussion and all this has been an ongoing discussion with a lot of ships for a long time. And a lot of people have been saying this, and a lot of people have been shooting it down, saying it's not important, it's not important. Well, guess what? Here we are. We're flying around on planets. It's important now. The chickens have come home to roost, and it's time to tackle this problem. And it should have, in all honesty, it should have been tackled a long time ago. But it wasn't. And because people just kept saying, oh, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. Ooh, look at that, the Pioneer, it's so cool. But nobody stopped and said, hey, how am I going to land the Pioneer? How am I going to land the Javelin? How am I going to land the Idris? Oh, whoops. Like, these are some of the things that you need to concern yourself about. Not just like, ooh, it's the cool ship. It's, how am I going to use the cool ship? And is the cool ship even going to work for me? But anyways, yeah, that's the show for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.